and welcome to this goat-themed edition of Yoga with Molly. As I was planning classes for the month of January, I thought, what better theme for Capricorn season than to craft a goat-inspired flow. So no props necessarily required for this short class today. You may wish to have a block at the top of the mat if it helps you with balancing at any points, but otherwise we will begin lying back on the mat. So just come to a lying position, feet flat on the ground, and just take a moment to come into the breath. Breathing in and exhaling. Good. To start our warm-up, we'll begin by lifting the right leg into the air, giving some ankle rolls, and then placing it back down. Lifting the left leg, twirling the ankle, just taking some gentle rotational movement, bringing lubrication into the joints and placing it back down. Good. On your next inhale, bringing both of your arms and your legs up into the air and just moving the wrists and the feet from here. When I was researching goats ahead of this class, one of the things that I was looking up was, how do goats sleep? And you would be surprised the number of photos I found of goats that had obviously just toppled over and were left in this position here. So we're kind of a goat that's maybe fallen out of its bed, and just bringing our hands and our feet into life here. Good. Feel free to take some intuitive movement here, moving the hands and the legs around. Good. And placing our feet back on the ground and our arms as well. Now, one thing that goats are particularly famous for, they are very, very curious, if you've ever been lucky enough to have an encounter with one. And they are also the most phenomenal escape artists. So we're going to play with that theme now and actually take a little bit of our practice off the mat. So to start with, we're going to bring the right leg into the body and extend up into the sky. Good. Maybe just pulse here, bringing it in towards the chest and extending. Bringing it in and extending. Good. This time, bringing the leg in and taking it out to the side. And again, you can do it so that it reaches the floor, or you can leave it quite active in the air. Bringing it out, pulsing the leg in, bringing it out again. Good. One more time, bringing it in and bringing it out. Good. This time, as you bring it in, we're going to rotate over the body. I'm just going to shuffle towards you to make sure I have enough space. Rotate the leg over the top of the body. Bring your left leg with you, moving into a twist. And again, extending the leg, bringing it in. Extending, bringing in. One more time, extending, bringing in. Good. This time, as you bring the leg back up top, explore the spaces in between. And again, channeling that curiosity, that adventurous nature of our inspiration today, the humble goat. Where could this go? What areas of the room could you explore with your leg? Maybe taking some circles, pulsing the leg up, moving the leg across again, tracing all of the spaces in between and off the mat. Good. And placing the foot back down safely on the earth. Good. This time, bringing the left knee into the chest and slowly extending it up. Good. Bringing the knee in and extending it up into the sky. Bringing it in and extending up into the sky. Good. This time, bringing the knee in almost so that it's tucked tucked in towards your left armpit, and then slowly, again, I might need to just shuffle towards you to find my space. Moving it out and extending it over to the side this time. Good. And again, bringing it back into the body, extending it out. Bringing into the body and extending out. Good. Bringing the knee back in, this time crossing over to the right hand side, and again, feel free to allow the right leg to move with you as you move into a twist, extending out and bringing the knee back in. Good. Extending out, bringing the knee back in. One more time, extending out, bringing the knee back in. As you come back onto the back, explore some curious, intuitive movement, maybe taking some circles here, pressing up into the sky, out to the side, over into a twist, leaving no area unexplored, much the same way that a goat wouldn't either. And if you're more comfortable, you can do this with the leg bent as well. There's no need to extend if it feels uncomfortable. And bringing the foot back down onto the earth. Good. From here, just shimmying back into the center of the mat if you have rolled off course. Bringing the knees in towards the chest, giving them a good tight squeeze, and just gently rocking from side to side, back and forward. Good. From here, slowly rocking along the length of the back until you come up and cross into a tabletop position here. In your tabletop position, I'm inviting you to explore warming up the wrists by turning them almost into mini hooves. So coming up onto the knuckles, of course you can do this on palms if more comfortable for you, and just rotating into them, moving the hands around the mat in kind of these hoof-like shapes. Good. Placing the palms back flat if they weren't there already. And from here, again, we're just going to explore the space around us. So this time, veering maybe off the mat, maybe coming off of the mat entirely. And taking a little wander around the room first on all fours, and then perhaps as we travel back towards the top of the mat, maybe we even lift and bring our feet in. Walking. Good. Goats, as I say, are one of the most curious animals, but also one of the most agile animals. If you've ever observed a goat, you'll see that they jump, they climb, they're incredibly curious, coming back to the top of the mat if you're not already there. So it's good for us to channel that during our warm-up. Back into your tabletop position. From here, we're just going to warm up through the scapula. So taking a few scapular push-ups. Hands are underneath the shoulders, and we're just going to gently lower, so dip, and then push up, doming slightly at the top. Dipping and doming slightly. Take a couple more of these. One thing that you'll notice if you're studying the anatomy of a goat specifically is that they are incredibly strong all down the back of their necks and across their shoulders. And if you think about it, come back into a tabletop while we chat. We'll just take a couple of rounds of cat-cow just to warm up through the spine. So arching the back, inhaling and curling into our cat pose to exhale. Good. A few rounds of this, warming up through the spine. Yeah, it's so important when we're thinking about channeling a goat specifically that we work particularly into this upper area of the body. Not only does a goat use that to climb and to jump, but also because a goat has, typically it's able to grow actually quite big horns, it needs really strong muscles all through the top back body, not just to support its head, but it's also also a function of the way that goats manage conflict. If you've ever been in conflict with a goat, you'll know that they headbutt. That is how goats fight. It is how they keep themselves safe. And indeed, if someone else tries to fight with a goat and potentially attacks them by their horns, they need to be able to withstand the impact of that. So in our short flow today, we're going to be working on strengthening this area of the body, hence the scapular push-up, just to warm us up. Good. From here, we're going to move back into, well, what was formerly known as downward facing dog. I've taken some creative license today though and transformed it into downward facing goat. What was Adho Mukha Svanasana, downward facing dog, is now Adho Mukha Ajasana, which is downward facing goat. Good. From here, curling forward, coming into a plank position, and then moving back up into our downward facing goat. Pedaling out through your down dog / down goat a little bit, and then slowly traveling to the top of the mat. Good. Hang out here in your forwards fold just for a moment. Stretching, keep a generous bend in the knee before curling up vertebra by vertebra and finding ourselves in mountain pose. Mountain, natural home of the goat, of course. Good. From here, raising the hands up into the sky, planting them back down into our forward facing fold. Stepping back into downward facing goat. From here, we're going to roll forwards into plank again. This time, lowering the knees softly so that we're in this half plank position. And we're just going to do mini push up. Good. Coming up, back, downward facing something. Good. Hopping or skipping, jumping to the top of the mat, forwards fold, and rising back up, resting in mountain pose. Good. Building a little bit of heat from here. Goats love to jump and they like to climb. So let's play with that a little bit. This time, coming back down, we're going to experiment on our way down this time with Bakasana, crane pose. What I love about this for a goat-inspired flow is I actually think it looks not too dissimilar to how goats look when they kick up. So when goats are kicking, their knees, because they're pointing the other way, they don't kick this way, they kick up in order to create impact if they happen to be springing that way. So to come into Bakasana or crane pose, maybe start, if it's not already in your practice and you're learning and you're experimenting, come down into kind of a mini squat position. What we're going to try and do is bring our knees as close into our armpits as we're able to. Now that, if it's not something that's within your practice, may already be quite challenging, because it requires a lot of strength actually from your hip flexors. So we'll just, I'm coming up onto a tiptoe. You can see I'm placing my kneecap into my armpit. I try and do that on both sides. Oof, difficult. Moving forwards. If I'm able to, resting the knees on the backs of my arms, looking forward. Perhaps from here you tap up with one. Perhaps you tap up with two. Perhaps you come into an arm balance and raise them both. I don't feel able to today, so I'm just going to hop back from here into downward facing dog. However you get there, make your way back, down dog, down goat. And then when you're ready, curling forward into plank pose, lowering chaturanga, and then it was up dog, today it is up goat. Urdhva Mukha Ajasana. Good. From here, curling back, downward facing dog. Good. Raising the right leg into the air, tipping over, coming to sit and raising up. Now this next pose is typically referred to as wild thing. Just for today, wild goat. Shining the heart up into the sky. And when you're ready, lowering back down. In one swift movement, we're going to transition via a side plank up to the top of the mat, landing in kind of a lunge-like position. Good. Raising the arms up into the sky, moving into a twist, hooking our left elbow onto our right leg, extending the left hand forward, almost to mimic the horns of a goat. Feel free to get the other hand involved if you like. I prefer to have it supporting my hip. Good. Raising up into the sky. From here, shooting forwards into a warrior 3 position. Oh, hanging on to any door frames if you need if you need support with balance. And then moving down into your standing splits. Good. Bringing the left leg back down behind you and landing in a forwards fold. Good. Taking hold of either elbow and swaying here for a moment, and then slowly raising up into mountain pose. And taking a moment here to rest. Resting on your mountain and breathing. Buoyancy in the legs. Good. Raising arms to the sky, finding length through the side body, maybe reaching up a couple of times, bringing the hands back down to earth. Option to have a second play in Bakasana here. I'm just stepping back to create some space. So again, this also works really well actually on blocks if you want to create a little bit of height if you're working with yoga blocks at home. So again, tipping forward maybe lifting one leg, maybe lifting the other, maybe coming into an arm balance. When you've had a little play, coming back down to earth, and just the way that a goat would, you can hop back with as much height and adventure as you would like, but we're going to jump back into our downward facing goat. From here, curling forward into plank, sending those horns forward, lowering chaturanga, and then extending into what I am calling for today, upward facing goat. Good. Moving back into our down goat. This time, left leg extends to the sky, tipping over slowly into a lowered seated position on the other side. From here, raising up into our wild goat on the left-hand side. Good. Coming safely back down to earth. From here, moving via a side plank. So coming up into side plank and transitioning as gracefully as you're able to. Let me just shimmy forward slightly into a low lunge. Good. From here, hooking the right elbow onto the top of the left knee and pulsing here for a moment. Good. Extending your right horns forward. And then from here, unraveling the twist, coming back into your low lunge and whoop, springing up into your Virabhadrasana 3. Hang on, let me, I need more space. Now, shining your hands forward, or you can have them by your side, but either way, visualizing big, heavy, strong goat horns pointed to the top of your mountain. Good. Bowing down into your standing splits on the other side. Good. Bringing your right leg safely back down to land on the earth. Good. From here, taking forwards fold, moving from side to side, maybe shaking the hands out, rolling up to mountain. Perhaps you shake the feet out from here. Unload and have a little bounce into the feet until eventually you find a place of stillness. Good. From here, our final pose before we come to rest, really big pose to build strength through the shoulders. We're going to do a handstand drill. Now, if handstands are already in your practice, this is your opportunity now that you're warmed up to go ahead and practice your freestanding handstands or practice your kick-ups. I'm going to be doing some L shapes against the wall. So I'll show you how if it's your first time. I'm just going to move my mat actually out of the way. It's just my own preference. I prefer to practice these without a mat on this carpet, but if you have a good sticky mat you might feel more comfortable. So I found a nice little piece of wall here, nothing lying nearby, no risk that I'm gonna topple over onto something sharp or dangerous. From here I'm gonna, with my back facing the wall, I'm kind of just gonna have a feel around until I'm about a shin's distance away from the wall, so my tiptoes are able to find the wall from here. I'm going to put my hands out in front of me. Make sure they're not too wide because you don't want to sink into your shoulders. You want to have your hands aligned underneath your shoulders to make sure that you're not collapsing if you're attempting this. Good, and the first thing I'm just going to do, I'm going to do something similar to my scapular push-ups, but I'm not going to dip into them as deeply. And the reason for that is I just want to practice doming into the back, which is a really important aspect to building strength in your handstand and stability as well. The other thing that you'll notice when you dome, you light up through your abdomen, but also your adductors, the muscles on the inside of your thighs light up, which are all really, really important to supporting you in a handstand position. So from here, I'm going to inhale with a relatively flat back, and then on my exhale, dome slightly. Inhaling, returning to normal. Exhaling, doming. You may even on your next one want to attempt, and I'm going to come forward slightly for this just to give my feet a little bit of room. You may even want to play with coming up, like curling up on your feet. I'll show you how. So inhaling, exhaling. Okay, one more of those. Good. This time I'm going to come into, and you can continue just to practice there. That is perfect. If that feels good and if that's new for you, just practice that doming technique coming into the back. From here, I'm going to come into something that resembles kind of a bad or a constricted downward facing dog. So I'm going to come up into this position. I've untucked my toes, and then from here I'm going to walk up the wall, and my goal is to get myself into something resembling an L shape. So I'm going to come up about halfway, both legs are up, and I'm lifting into an L. Good. Coming back down to earth. Good. Take a moment to rest here, coming into child's pose. Breathing. Good. And you can continue to practice going up into L shapes the way that I just did, or continuing to walk your legs further up the wall if you feel comfortable to, and if you feel like you've developed the stability too. But the first thing to just practice is coming into that L shape, because that motion of tipping forwards can feel really alien the first time you do it, and you may find yourself in more of a like a ladder against a wall rather than an L. So it's about building the strength and building comfort with being in that shape over your wrists as well. I'll come up one more time. So inhaling, I'm coming up. This time I'm going to walk up a little bit higher and dome. Calming back down to earth. Good. And resting here. Good. Coming forwards and shaking anything off. You may really, if it's your first time practicing any of those types of postures, be feeling it not just in your wrists, but across the top of your shoulders as well, because it requires a lot of mobility to move back rather than to be in kind of this position. It asks a lot of your back, of your shoulders, and it's wonderfully inspired by our good friend the goat. Right, coming back to your mat wherever you've been, and we're just going to close today's practice actually in a wide-legged child's pose for a moment. So bringing the legs wide. You're welcome, if you do feel more comfortable, to have them closer together. You can also use a pillow to give you some height if you like, but just coming forwards and resting all of that top half of the body that worked really hard for us in what was quite a short practice. And breathing. When you're ready, curling forwards, finding yourself in a lying down position, however you get there. Oh, you've reached the top of the mountain. Give it a big hug, arms outstretched. And I thank you for practicing with me today. You can make yourself back up to a seated position, however feels best for you to get there. Thank you so much for joining my goat themed taster class. This was a small segment of a 1-hour class that is on my website in the January bundle. It's yogawithmolly.com. I hope to see you there for the full length version. Otherwise, if you've just joined me for today, I really hope that this has inspired you to bring some playfulness into your practice during this Capricorn season, and maybe you've learnt something new. At the very least, built some strong goat strength through the top half of your body. I thank you so much, and I hope you have a beautiful day.